Welcome back. All right, so we are going to talk about the Detroit Red Wings, who I said after last year, I said I think they've gone through the worst of it. And this past season kind of showed that, yeah, it looks like they've definitely got through the worst of it. This rebuild now, they start probably making that climb, but it's a slow climb. So they're not in the running for a playoff spot. I get why they have the longest odds to win a Stanley Cup this year, because you don't look at this team and say, well, that's a cup contender. However, Steve Yzerman, one piece at a time, is putting together a very good team. And I would say a couple years from now, we may be talking about how smartly this was all done. So last season, their special teams, the power play, 11.4%, 30th overall. And I honestly, when I was looking up the numbers and I saw the power play at 11.4% and 30th, I remembered Mickey Redmond and his... They weren't really rants about the power play, but he was frustrated with the power play while he was watching it as the color commentator. And it was entertaining and understandable at the same time. Where I was like, I understand why he's so frustrated. We'll see if the power play gets better this year. It should. As the more talented young players get into the lineup, the more dynamic players, we should see that power play get better. Their penalty kill wasn't awful. 78.7%, which is 22nd. That's not great, but it's not terrible. Goals for, they were 30th in the league with 125. They need that to come up, right? Their goals against, 168, which was 20th. So they were 20th in goals against, and it was a pretty tough division they had in the Central. So the overall picture for Detroit, again, is one that I think is getting brighter. Now, what's interesting is when you look at their notable draft picks since 2015, drafting has been hit and miss, right? So 2015, Evgeny Svechnikov's drafted 19th overall. Right now, Evgeny Svechnikov is an unrestricted free agent. So it just didn't work. 2016, Cholowski drafted 20th overall. Well, he's now in Seattle, so that didn't work. Giovanni Smith, 46 overall draft pick. He's still in the lineup. Hronik at 53 is a steal. 2017, they draft Rasmussen at number 9. Jury's still out on Rasmussen's upside and how many points and goals he may score in his career, but at 9, it looks like maybe he was drafted too high. And then you've got Gustav Lindstrom at 38, and I think Lindstrom's a steal. 2018, Zadina drafted at 6, Veleno drafted at 30, Berggren drafted at 33. Berggren may become the best of the three, but I still think Zadina is going to be just fine. Again, it's one of those may never reach that level that was expected of him at the draft, but he should still be a useful middle six forward, so second/third line player. 2019, they drafted Moritz Seider at number 6, and at the time, everybody kind of went, why? That seems kind of high. Why is Detroit doing this? And everybody got kind of upset. Although, if you were following along, you'd understand that Seider was flying up the draft in mock drafts throughout the season, and he was one of the hotter prospects going into that draft. So, pretty smart pick by Detroit. He should be coming over this year. It should make a big difference to their blue line. And then Soderblom, who they drafted at 159th, we saw him at the World Juniors. He's huge, and he's got offensive talent. So that pick at 159th may end up being an absolutely fantastic pick. And I don't even have him on the rest of this board. But if they get him signed and bring him over, look out. 2020, they draft Lucas Raymond at number 4. Solid pick. Not currently signed to an entry-level contract. So I would think he's probably coming over next year. And Wallinder, drafted at 32. Could have been drafted higher, could have been lower, and it, it's in that spot in the draft where you're just drafting who you think is the best player available. And it's another blue liner. 2021, they went with a blue liner again with Edvinsson at number 6 and Casa, goaltender, at 15. Now, with a lot of these previews, I'm not talking about the 2021 picks. I'm talking about them here because you can see that for Detroit, he is plugging guys in where he feels he needs them. He's picked Seider, he's picked Wallinder, he's picked Edvinsson. This is 3 blue liners in the last 3 years who all should be able to make a contribution to the Wings in the near future. So you can see that he's got a plan, and he continues to plug away, even though they haven't won a draft lottery while he's been there. Maybe they win it this year. And if they win the number 1 pick this year, I have a feeling all is forgiven when it comes to the draft lottery for Detroit and for their fans. Now, their exits, they lose Luke Glendening. Dallas will take good care of him. Jonathan Bernier, I'm surprised at both of those guys leaving. I really thought Bernier was going to stay with Detroit. Bobby Ryan, Darren Helm. The writing was on the wall with Helm. Svechnikov, as stated, their first round pick in 2015. Panik didn't last very long in Detroit. Biega and Chalowski. So all of those players have moved on. New faces, Mitchell Stevens added from Tampa. He does like picking up the phone and calling Tampa and asking if they need any help. Pia Suter, smart pickup, I think, for them. Pia Suter coming in from Chicago and should plug into the top 6, and it should be interesting to see whether or not he produces as well in Detroit as he did in Chicago. And then they've added Leddy on the blue line, Osterley on the blue line, and Nedeljkovic in net. And nobody expected Nedeljkovic to be on the move in the offseason. I'm still really surprised that Nedeljkovic is the goaltender for Detroit, and maybe he can make a big difference. So the last 3 years have been lean years for Detroit. They haven't made the playoffs since 2016. So we're up to, it's been a while. So 2018, 2019, they finished 32, 40, and 10. They were 7th in the Atlantic. 2019, 2020, absolutely disastrous year. 17, 49, and 5. They were 8th in the Atlantic. And this past season, 19, 27, and 10. So they won 2 more games, even though they played 26 less, and they were 7th in the Central. So there's reason to look at this team right now and say, yeah, things should get better. Now, I am predicting them for 7th in the Atlantic, but there are some reasons to look at this team that hasn't won a cup since 2008 and say, hey, there are parts of this team that are going to get better and could get better this year. So we'll look at the forward group. Vrana, first full season in Detroit. We'll see how he does. Larkin needs to stay healthy and all that wonderful stuff. Bertuzzi really needs to stay healthy. Tyler Bertuzzi, huge difference maker when he's in the lineup. Robbie Fabry needs to get back to where he was at his start in Detroit. Also needs to stay healthy, but St. Louis fans watching this would say, well, yeah, that's why we traded Fabry. He can't stay healthy. Suter, as stated, coming in from Chicago. Zadina, if his offense could pick up a little bit, Detroit would be quite happy about that. Nemesnikov, still there. Rasmussen, Gagne's still there. There are some veterans on this team that I'm a little bit surprised are still there. Giovanni Smith, Veleno. Can Veleno take that next step this year? Does he end up being the number 3 center? Adam Ernie, coming off of what was a very solid season for him. Nielsen, who's winding down his career. Mitchell Stevens and Taro Hirose. And we'll see whether or not Hirose gets into any action this year. Now, when we look at the blue line, this is where things are going to be a lot of fun to watch with Detroit. So they've added Leddy, Hronik, DeKeyser, and Moritz Seider probably gets into that top 4, right? Which would mean Stahl, Stetcher, Osterley, Lindstrom. These 4 guys, only 2 of them can be in the lineup any given night. Unless they do an 11 and 7 setup. I don't know they necessarily do that, though. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see which defensemen end up not making it into this lineup. Because for Steve Yzerman, let's just say Stetcher. Let's just say they look and they go, you know what? We don't think that Stetcher is projecting to be in our top 6. There would be takers for Stetcher in that contract. And yeah, I mean, if DeKeyser was available, you'd think maybe there'd be some interest there. So, again, just looking at this blue line, there's a lot of names there. And we'll see how things shake down for them. And then you've got Renouf, and you've got McIsaac as well, who was a second-round draft pick not that long ago. And we'll see whether or not he can make things interesting in training camp as well. So their prospects, you've got Lucas Raymond, who once he comes into this lineup, he projects to be a dynamic forward who should score a bunch of points. I'm calling it now, Raymond should probably be on a line with Larkin and Bertuzzi, and see how that goes. Jonathan Berggren. Berggren, there's a lot of hype around him. You've got to think he's probably coming in next year as well. Simone Edvinsson at number 6 draft pick. And with his overall physical tools, he may be able to come in and play for them next season. So that solidifies the blue line. Wallinder may very well find himself pushing for a roster spot next year. And Sebastian Casa is that goaltender that they feel will be the guy for them down the road. So they've got Nedeljkovic, they've got Grace, they've got Pickard in net. And then Casa will get added to that, you would think. Next year, they probably sign him, send him down to the minors, give him all the experience he needs. But it is interesting because Grace had a really solid second half to the season this past year. And so we'll see how things go. We'll see if Nedeljkovic plays 60 games or if he plays 45 and Greiss plays 37. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. So there are a lot of key things with Detroit to keep an eye on. The development of the young players here, the coalescing, the bonding between all of these defensemen to make each pairing work really well. And can Nedeljkovic follow up what was a very strong season in Carolina in Detroit, where he's not playing behind the same defensive kind of players that he would have been in Carolina. He's going to face a lot more shots and probably higher quality shots as well. So it's going to be interesting. And their schedule favors them a little bit at the beginning in that they have their first 4 games at home. Tampa Bay on the 14th, Vancouver on the 16th, Columbus on the 19th, and Calgary on the 21st. So over that 7 days, they got the 4 games, and they're all at home. Then on the 23rd, they go to Montreal. They go to Chicago on the 24th, and then they're in Washington 3 days later on the 27th. They come back home, they play Florida on the 29th, and then the next night they're in Toronto on the 30th. So for Detroit, this is going to be an interesting start to the year. If they could come out of October with a 500 record, who knows? They are one of those teams that I understand the odds. I'm not even going against them. I'm saying, yep, this is a team I have towards the bottom. But if the kids can play and if Nedeljkovic can steal some games early, could get really interesting in the Atlantic. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always, where you think the Detroit Red Wings finish and all that wonderful stuff. And how close are they to coming out of this rebuild? How close is Steve Yzerman to putting together what should be a pretty good playoff team? And is he building towards a Stanley Cup contender, or are they missing that key piece that they would need to actually be considered a Stanley Cup contender down the road? And would that piece be, say, for instance, available if they won the draft lottery and drafted first this year? I'm going to say yes, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through and you just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.